All right, let's dive into this today. We're going to take a look at legal writing, AI, and something you might not expect, plagiarism.
Interesting combo.
Yeah, you sent over this law review article by Professor Michael L. Smith, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
language models, plagiarism, and legal writing.
It's pretty fascinating, right?
Yeah, it's really thought-provoking, It's kind of crazy.
What's really interesting is that he compares using these language models like ChatGPT
Right.
with, well, we could say, the tradition of plagiarism in legal writing.
Yeah, it's almost like he's saying that law schools are, like, super eager to teach students about AI,
Right.
but they kind of shy away from this other tool that's arguably even more common in the legal profession, right?
Oh, absolutely. And he makes a really strong argument for, understanding what he calls effective plagiarism
Right.
as a crucial skill for lawyers.
So we're going to take a look at the arguments for and against both of these things, language models, plagiarism in legal writing. And maybe we'll uncover some things about the future of law along the way.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Why don't we start with addressing plagiarism in the legal field?
Okay.
Professor Smith's article really reveals how common it is.
Yeah, it's like an open secret or something.
Right.
Judges, attorneys, even bar associations all admit that copying and reusing legal documents is just standard practice.
It's true. It makes you wonder why plagiarism is so common in law.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, in academia, it's a huge no-no.
It's a cardinal sin, yeah.
Yeah. But I guess when you think about it, lawyers are always under pressure to be efficient and cost-effective.
Right.
I mean, imagine having to bill a client for like 10 hours to draft a document
Oh,
that
yeah.
you could just adapt from a template in an hour.
Makes sense. Plus, the legal profession relies heavily on precedent.
Yeah.
So, legal writing is a lot about using existing arguments and adapting them to new cases.
So it's not always like laziness or being unethical.
Right.
It's more about using existing knowledge to help people.
Exactly. It's about efficiency and affordability.
Yeah.
But there are different viewpoints on this. Some legal experts believe that plagiarism is always dishonest, no matter what, while others say it's necessary because of costs and, the system in general.
Yeah, it's definitely a gray area.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about language models.
Okay.
There's been so much hype about them in the legal world.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Everyone's saying AI is going to revolutionize how we write legal documents.
Professor Tammy Petnato-Olds even talked about how ChatGPT can be a big help for professors, like with recommendation letters and syllabi,
Oh, wow.
even exam questions.
And some law schools are letting applicants use AI to write their admission essays.
I know, it's wild.
Arizona State is like leading the way with that.
Yeah, they are.
And then there are the studies showing that ChatGPT can actually pass the bar exam.
It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
It is. But what does all this mean for legal education? I mean, if AI can pass the bar, what does that say about the system?
Right, that's a good question.
Yeah. Should we be changing how we teach and evaluate students?
That's what a lot of legal educators are trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, if technology can do things that used to require legal expertise,
Yeah.
what does that mean for the future of law school?
So are lawyers actually using ChatGPT in their work?
Well, we don't know exactly how many are, but
Yeah.
some are definitely using it to draft documents, summarize long texts, and even come up with legal arguments.
Wow.
Yeah, it can be a huge time saver, especially for like summarizing depositions or reviewing contracts.
I bet. But have there been any, issues?
Well, yeah, like that case where the lawyers submitted a brief with fake citations from ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
It was a big oops for the legal profession.
Uh-huh.
It shows the risks of relying too much on AI without being careful.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that these are just tools.
Right.
They can't replace human judgment and critical thinking.
Which kind of brings us back to Professor Smith's main point, right?
Yeah.
He's saying that both language models and effective plagiarism
Right.
raise similar ethical and practical concerns.
I think that's a really smart observation.
Yeah.
They can both save time and money,
Yeah.
and they're both already being used a lot, even with the ethical questions.
So are we saying that using AI means we're okay with plagiarism?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
Both rely on using and adapting existing content.
Yeah.
The line between the two can be very blurry.
Before we get too deep into the ethical stuff,
Okay.
let's talk more about effective plagiarism.
Okay.
What is it really?
Right.
And how is it different from just plain plagiarism?
Well, Professor Smith says effective plagiarism requires really understanding the source, being able to change it for a new situation, and giving credit to the original.
So it's not just copying and pasting.
No, not at all. You need to analyze the source, find the important parts,
Okay.
and make them work for your case.
That sounds pretty complex.
It is, and that's where the comparison with language models gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because the skills you need for both are very similar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to have to say that, though, right?
Yes.
That's a whole other discussion for part 2 of our deep dive. But in this first part, we've talked about how common plagiarism is in law, all the hype about language models,
Right.
and even some of the ethics involved.
We have. And in part 2, we'll really dig into this comparison.
Okay.
Look at what it means for teaching law, all that stuff.
So stay tuned.
You won't want to miss it.
Yeah.
Welcome back. So, should law schools teach students how to effectively use language models and plagiarism?
You know, at first I was like, wait, is he seriously saying we should teach students how to plagiarize? But it's more complicated than that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's challenging how we think about legal education.
Yeah.
He points out that law schools hate plagiarism, but then students go out into a profession where it's kind of normal.
Yeah, it's like teaching someone to drive a car, but never letting them actually, drive on the road.
Right, exactly.
So how do we fix that? How do we connect what's taught in school with what happens in the real world?
Well, Professor Smith says the same reasons for teaching language models apply to teaching this effective plagiarism.
Okay, I see. He's saying that both can save a ton of time and money.
Exactly.
Which are super important for lawyers, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if a lawyer can use a language model or adapt an existing document, they can help more people and charge less.
And it's not just about being cheap, right?
No.
It's also about using what we already know in the legal world.
That's right. Both language models and this plagiarism idea build on existing legal knowledge.
Okay.
And the legal profession is all about precedent.
Right.
So using successful arguments from past cases makes sense.
It's not always bad or unethical then.
Exactly. It's about using the collective wisdom of the legal profession.
Yeah. So the question is, if these things are used so much in practice, shouldn't we be teaching students how to use them the right way?
That's a great point. It seems unfair to students to ignore this whole part of the profession.
Yeah, we should be preparing them for what they'll actually face.
Absolutely. And that's where effective plagiarism comes in.
Okay.
It's not just copying. It's about understanding the source material, finding the good arguments, and making them work for a new case.
And giving credit where it's due.
Yes, of course. That's essential.
Okay, but how do you teach effective plagiarism in law school? Wouldn't that be kind of controversial?
It would definitely require changing how legal writing is taught.
Okay.
Maybe we should focus more on teaching students how to really analyze and adapt existing work
Nice.
instead of just starting from scratch.
So it's like instead of just writing a perfect memo from nothing,
Right.
we also teach them how to take apart and use real legal documents.
Yes, and make sure they understand the ethical implications of doing that.
Right, because even if it's okay to use existing work, it has to be done ethically.
Absolutely.
But if we're going to embrace these new tools and effective plagiarism, how do we make sure students are still learning the basics of legal writing?
That's a really important question, and Professor Smith addresses that.
Okay.
He says that even though these tools are helpful, they can't replace fundamental skills.
So students still need to know how to write from scratch and do good research.
Exactly. They need to be able to think critically about legal issues.
Yeah.
Language models and plagiarism are just tools.
Right. They can't do everything?
Nope. They can make things easier, but they